All right. Hi, everyone. So we're going to pick up from where we left off last time. Last time we were keying out um, a couple of compositions, and those compositions they were sort of matched. There was one older woman one, and then there was the younger version one. So what we want to do is we want to do a morph between the two. We start with the older and we show the younger, and it looks like the older one is getting younger, which should be a pretty cool effect. So to do that, we're going to use a plugin called Reflex Motion Morph, which is right here. It's a paid plugin. It's not free, but it's by this company here, Revision Effects. It's a pretty neat little plugin. So I'll show it to you tonight. And if you should need something like this, you'll know all about it. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing that you have to do is you kind of have to determine where you want the morph to happen on the timeline. So I notice here that on this clip, she turns her head and she has some lines, and that all starts right about there. So it starts about 16 seconds. So we probably want to end the morph around 14 seconds. And let's say we want the morph to be 4 seconds. So from 10 to 14. So I'm going to just move the old footage over a little bit. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to line up the footage as best we can. That will help the morph. So let's see. Let's see. I'll turn down the opacity on this just temporarily, just so we can see through it. And let's see how well we can line these up. I think I'll try to line them up kind of right in between right in sort of the middle of the morph, because that's when they'll both be kind of equally visible. So let's see. Looks like I need to move that over. Can kind of use their ears as a guide a little bit. So that's pretty close. Okay. Now restore that opacity back up. Okay. So why don't I go ahead and drop Reflex Motion Morph on the old one. So the way this plugin works is whatever the comp that you drop it on is, that is by definition the one that it's morphing from. Once you've done that, you can determine which one it is morphing to up here. And we will say Scarlett Young. Okay. So we basically just turned on the morph, and the way it does the morph, there's a whole bunch of knobs here. Lots and lots of knobs to turn. And we should see, so these values right here are of immediate importance: global warp and global warp blend. Let's say we want it to be 100% at the 14-second mark. So that's 100 right there. And okay. Let's get this more precise. So it's the 14-second mark, and we will set a point right there. Okay. And then we wanted this thing to be 4 seconds, so we'll get to 10 seconds. And get this more precise. And we will set these to 0 here. Okay. So now it's going to do what you'd expect. At 0, we get all the old one. And at 100, we get all the young one. Okay. So now it's going to just, out of the box, like we just did it, it's obviously going to do a pretty poor job. Really what we have to do is we have to train it to recognize the important features of a face, namely, eyes, nose, mouth, eyebrows, things like that. And when it understands that those are important features to keep and to match, it can do the morph more successfully. So let's get started with doing that. So this knob, the use GPU, that sounds very alluring, but I'm just going to warn you right now, every time I do that, it crashes the tool. So use it at your own risk, and save often. In fact, I'm going to save right now. Okay, so let's start training it as to the features. So well, let's start with the eyes. Eyes are always, so important. We definitely, that's one of the features that we look at first, and so it's probably the most noticeable one. So what we do is we draw what's called splines, what they call splines. And to do that, you use the pen tool. And so what I'm going to do is draw one point at the edge of the eye, one kind of right in the middle of the eye, and then on the other side. And I didn't get that one quite where I wanted it, so I'm going to get it more centered. Okay. So what we did is we just created, a mask, and I'm going to make it a noticeable color, easily identifiable. And I didn't really do that very well. Let's do it bright red. Bright red, okay. And let's make that eye from. Now, these names are not, they don't really have any significance to the tool at all. It doesn't care what you name them. But what it cares about is the order in which these things are. So it expects pairs of these. And what it's going to do is it's going to say, the first one that I encounter, I'm going to assume that one is for the from image. The next one I encounter is going to be the to image, and I'm going to try to line those up. And it does better if there are at least 3 points. When I tried 2 points, it didn't work quite as well. And it wants the same number of points for each one of the pairs, right? So the from pair should have 3 points, and the to pair should also have 3 points, and it's going to try to match up all 3 of those points. So you'll see what I mean in a minute. And then the coloring, it is just to keep them, easily identifiable for us later, because there's going to be a lot of these. Okay, so that was on the from, so we're going to make this the unmap 2 now. And usually the easiest thing to do is just to it's just to duplicate this. So I'm going to hit Control D, duplicate it. I'm going to immediately change the name. Let's change it to I 2. And let's actually even make this a little bit more explicit. Let's make it right eye from, and this should be, you guessed it, right eye 2. Okay. Now we will make this a different color. Let's make this, we want to make them bright, easily identifiable colors. That's yellow. Okay. So let's take the yellow one and make sure it matches the, oops. Select this one. Pull that over. Okay. So now we have a pair. Now we're going to animate these. So we want to create keyframes. And let's just move it all the way over to our edge here at 14. That should be where we, yep, that's lined up here. So that's at the very end of the morph. And see where the eyes have changed to. So actually that's pretty remarkable. The eye is still very much in the right place for this one. So let's make a keyframe and let's check the other one. Now this one has moved quite a bit. So we will pick it up and move it. It's supposed to be right in the center. Okay. So let's kind of see how we did here. Let's put it in the middle. Let's put it right in the middle at 12 seconds. And this one is just a little bit off, so we'll move it. And let's check the 2. That one has moved quite a bit, so we'll move that also. And oops, I didn't mean to do that. Yeah. Okay. So she's kind of closing her eyes there a little bit. You can see they're not fully open, so that's what's going on there. So we actually needed to change the shape of it a little bit, which is fine. So it looks like it's moving quite a bit. So let's go in between a little bit here. That noise there is my cat climbing up the tree. So please ignore that. Okay. In between, this one looks like it stayed the same pretty much. Let's just maybe make a really small adjustment. Let's go to the from. I can make a small adjustment there. Okay. And let's put another point in 11 seconds. So I mean, at worst, if these things are really moving a lot, you might have to do this every frame or at least a lot more frequently. Let's try to get away with it every second, and we can refine that later. So let's see, we're looking at, this is the from image, and all right, so we're just adjusting this a little bit. Okay, and then we'll look at the 2 image. And that kind of looks right on, actually. All right, so we're ready to try a workspace render here and see how it looks. I'm going to set this to warped and blended. And now we're going to do the RAM preview. All right, we're back, and here's the RAM preview. And so you can see there's all kinds of stuff going on there. Um, the head is moving and doing weird things. The mouth is doing weird things. But what's not doing weird things is the eye right around there. So at least we've got that sort of locked down. Um, keep in mind too that when this morph is taking place, some weird things like this is I think it's kind of what people expect, quite frankly. So but we just need to clean up the things that probably look worst. So I think right now I'm gonna do the mouth next and see how that goes. So I'm gonna go back to our start of our keyframes at 10 seconds. Make a new spline. First, we got to set this to unwarp from. Okay. And yeah, pen tool, and we'll make 3 points like before. One right at the corner of the mouth, one right at the middle of the mouth, and then at the other corner. And we'll change that to our red color. Good old red color. Or close to it anyway. And we're going to animate the path like usual. Okay. We'll rename it. All right. Mouth from. We will now duplicate it. Before. Yeller. Is the mouth to image. And that's animated because it inherited it from the other one. Okay, we'll change this to unwarped 2. And we'll select that. And remove, oops. I'm trying to move the yellow this time. Okay. And so now we just go to all the other points. Okay. All right. Let's do another RAM preview and see what we accomplished here. Save it first. So now I've set the display to warped and blended, and I'm doing the RAM preview. And you can see that, in here it's doing some pretty good stuff. You can definitely see that transformation. And it's not quite previewing the whole thing, but it's previewing most of it. So you can see you're getting younger. These things are vanishing, or wrinkles and so forth. But it's still, you can see the shoulder is coming apart here. It's coming apart up here a little bit. And the head also is you can see it kind of bulging there. So there's some more things to lock down, but you can kind of see the process now. You just keep defining more pairs of splines until the whole thing is locked down, and then you're done. So I'm going to turn the camera off and keep working, and then I'll come back later and show the final result. Hi there, welcome back. So here we see the finished version of what we were working on earlier. This took, quite a few hours to do. And you can see all the different splines that I created here. all the way around the head, the shoulders, the chin, mouth, nose, each eye, and so forth. Um, as far as animating them, you can see I did keep about 1 second was sufficient, except for a few of them where I added in another at the 30-second mark where there was a particular amount of movement that became necessary. Um, so yeah, other than that, it's not a complicated thing to do, but it's really time consuming. But anyway, here I can show you the final result. So we have her as the old woman here, and I'll just play it back. You can see she's getting younger and younger and younger until right there, bam, she's her young self, right? About here is where we reach the 100% mark. So it looks pretty nice. I do want to point out a couple of things. You can see right here that there's something weird happening with her shirt. And that was a result of she wore her shirt a little bit differently with a different neckline on the old versus the young shot. So that made it a lot more difficult. So that's kind of a lesson learned. The more things that you can keep the same, the easier the morph will be and the more successful it'll be. If you keep the hair the same and you keep her neckline the same and all that kind of stuff, it'll work a little bit more smoothly. But you can see once we get to here, it's looking pretty good. It's kind of expanding right here, the neckline. But pretty neat. I'm pretty happy with this. And of course, this is only one of my first morphs, so it'll get better and better as it goes. But anyway, I wanted to show you guys what's possible and how to approach this. And hopefully I was successful in doing that. If I was, feel free to share or click like or subscribe. And I'll be showing lots of other cool tutorials in the future. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. See you next time. Bye.